All right, guys, thank you for joining me. A lot of you all have been really waiting on the interviews that are coming up this week. I'm sitting here with Sheriff Andis, Blake Andis, running for re-election. While we're getting ready to do this interview, I want to say thank you all to everybody who's been joining, who's been watching. I really appreciate you helping us. And please remember to like and subscribe and share these videos. We want to see our community come together, but we really want to see you guys get out and vote and be a part of the local elections, okay? Sheriff Andis, I really appreciate you taking time. I know it's been crazy lately, but thank you for sitting down with me, and I'll try to make it as quick and painless as I can, like I have everybody else.
Thank you.
All right. So you've probably heard by now that one of my first questions that I usually ask is, are you a Christian? I mean, you feel comfortable in answering that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm a Christian.
Okay.
Been one for many years. I can fortunately say my family's a Christian. We attend Greendale Chapel Church.
Yeah.
We're members there, and very proud to be a Christian.
Can you kind of highlight, kind of like testify how you came to know the Lord?
It's been, of course, I know you, you, at a very young age, I ended up getting saved. And of course, with all the backsliding and everything, whenever you're younger, and
It happens.
some of my job duties early on, it was very embarrassing whenever you're buying drugs and things like that. You have to play another part of, you have to pretend to be somebody you're not. And it's embarrassing on some of that stuff. But me and my wife, we ended up, we got resaved together, got baptized, and ended up, went through a lot of hardships in life. And just, God, it's rough. Tickled.
Yeah.
Being a Christian.
He never promised that we'll get out of this without scars.
No.
But I preached the other night on. I preached on. Well, we'll not go into the title. Yeah, might as well. It's pretty corny, but it's a good title. This is a test.
Yeah.
It was only a test.
Yeah.
And life is a test, but there's a day coming after this life.
Oh, yeah.
That we can be reunited with the people we love. And I know, you knew my papa.
Yeah.
You knew my Uncle Donnie, and I love and miss them.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of, it's life, sin.
Yeah.
But I thank God that one day we're going to get through this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm gonna go ahead and be honest with you. I couldn't do your job, and I don't want to do your job. I'd come pray with your officers, whatever. But I respect the fact that you guys do things that my heart wouldn't be capable of handling, seeing things that I couldn't handle seeing. And I want to go ahead and on the record say I appreciate you guys.
Oh, well, I think it's job. It's not a job that you just come out and say, hey, well, I want to be sheriff today, or I want to run for sheriff. I just want to be sheriff. I think it's a chosen profession from the good Lord itself. People don't realize, what we see, the beatings and everything that we take, and all the lies that are told, and how degrading that people wants to make law enforcement.
And a lot of that, I think, really comes back to the political spectrum, which I want to get to in a minute. We can go ahead and jump into that for a second. I know you're running as a Republican. When you look at the political spectrum, and this isn't as much here, but things on a national level seem to seep down into our localities. How would you rate yourself or see yourself on a political spectrum between a real right-wing conservative and a real left-wing liberal, where do you find yourself in that political spectrum? I mean, obviously you're a Republican,
Yeah,
but how would you define your political views?
I'm conservative. I've been that way. Much like, 20 years ago, people would say, well, I'm a Democrat, and you're a Republican, and you thought the same way.
Yeah,
It was, you still have the same conservative views here. I remember I was the Democratic chairman at one time, and we were handing out, to vote for one man, one woman marriage.
yeah,
That the delegate Joe Johnson ended up putting through as a bill, for one woman, one man
Yeah.
marriage, and we really pushed that it passed. I think like 90% here in the county.
but now just so we can clarify for people who aren't listening, bring back to my recollection, but I'm pretty sure Joe Johnson was Democrat, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
And he actually was the one. He said, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democrats left me.
yeah,
But I've not changed any of the way that I was thinking. There was a whole lot of difference in views and things, and then I left and I went to the Republicans, and the same thoughts. We prayed before the meetings. We prayed, before we ate and things like that. And I wasn't asked, not to pray like I was. So I found me a home.
yeah. We know that the sheriff, it plays a big part in arresting and maintaining peace, but I think there's a lot more that goes into the job as sheriff that people really don't know. Could you kind of tell us a little bit more in depth what the sheriff does?
That's a big question. I don't know if we got enough time. Well, our main focus is keeping our communities safe and viable so people can raise a family here, they can worship here, and it's a safe community.
Yeah,
And you want to be able to work, enjoy life, basically. That is what we ensure. But in the meaning of all that, if you look at the state code, it's basically to maintain the courts and serve papers and things like that. But we do a whole lot more than that. We handle all the animal control calls. We do the school resource. We do central dispatch. We take all the calls coming in and do all the calls going out to the fire, rescue, police. We do serve all the papers. We serve all the judges in the courthouse, maintain security there. We do the criminal investigation part. If there's something happens here, then we're the main ones that takes care of that. Plus, we try to do the child investigations. We just started this past, in my tenure here, we've started doing a lot more mental health stuff with the deputies. We've got a couple of specialty things that we do with them that's making headway throughout the state that they want to mimic. Plus, we end up going out on a lot of civil disputes and things like that, with land surveys and husband and wives.
yeah,
And a lot of the drug control problems that happens here. We're in with some task forces enforce all that.
Yeah, and now I know on that part, I had asked Dove, Miss Dove Goodpasture, who's running for the county attorney, and she had brought up some ideas on how to try to help with the drug problems that we have instead of just putting them in jail, trying to offer them a way to get, clean and sober. And, it's sad, but that's a huge problem that we've got in our county.
Well, whenever I came in 2020, that was one of the things that we were going to do, and ended up we come up with a community work program, and what that does is it saves taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars by taking these first-time offenders, and most of them's drug possession or something like that, and we don't keep them in jail, but we get them out, and they're able to go home at night, spend a night with their family.
Well, I didn't know that.
But they report back here every morning, and from they do an 8-hour day here, and it pays back all their fines, court costs, and everything else. Plus, it instills work ethic,
Yeah.
and holds them accountable that, hey, I've got a job, I got to be there.
Yeah.
Or the consequences is going back to jail. And we've had a lot of them that has graduated, and we've had some that's went through like the drug court
Mhm.
that's failed and went back, and we've got them, and they said this is the best thing they've ever been in, because it holds them accountable, and we get them jobs out in the public. Also, they go out and help the 501(c)s, the churches. We've done everything. Usually we'll end up starting them out, picking up trash, along the roadways, and then they kind of graduate from there. We've got them mechanicking on our vehicles. We teach them a trade, we've got them with a mechanic, and some of them goes out and gets other jobs in something like that.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I met a guy, brother. It was Brother Tim Lester preached a revival and summer school thing over at Brother Jason Nunley's church. And I met a guy there. He had a pit bull. I love dogs, and I walked over and talked to him, and we were talking different things, But he was telling me that he had been in jail, and that since he had got out, he had started him a little business cutting trees, and he really, in talking to him, he really, he had spent some time in jail.
yeah.
Not a little bit of time.
And we help them. We get them jobs. We got people, you can't hire help,
And he really seemed really sound in the fact that he was determined he was going to stay clean and work hard. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
At looking from life from a Christian standpoint, I was a sinner. We were all born in sin, and we all make mistakes. But a lot of times it's the fact that they got caught and we didn't.
Yeah.
We may not have done something as bad, and ours may have been hid, but they got caught and we didn't. So how can we judge them? Most of them are really just trying to escape. Don't get me wrong, there's some really heinous crimes out there, and there's some people that really do deserve to stay in jail.
Yeah.
I get that. Most people, though, get caught up in things that they never thought that they'd see themselves in. I drove a school bus for 9 years, and I had kids that I know went to jail for drugs that were great kids on my bus. They just got on the wrong path.
Yeah.
And we got to be careful not to judge. Just like as Christians, we can't just judge people. Anyway, sorry to get that little tangent. By human nature, our beliefs go with us.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of speculation and stuff about separation of church and state. I can debate that, but I choose not to right now because I'm trying to be as independent as I can with everybody, and everybody seems to view it one way or the other. But my principal argument with that is this: regardless of separation of church and state, um, what we believe goes with us throughout our daily life. If your values are Republican values, conservative values, they dictate your life. Democrat, same way. But as a Christian, it's the same way. Our Christian values and how we view the Bible is non-separable from how we believe and see things. Now, having said that, how do you do your job based on, does your political and your overall belief system play a big part into how you do your job?
I think it does. I think if, you go up to somebody that's cussing and raising Cain and everything, and you're calm and cool and collected, I think that plays a big role as far as, and then once you get them calmed down, you talk to them, they kind of got the same beliefs, everybody's got their venting, that they'll do, but I think the Constitution and everything else, as far as the state constitution and the federal constitution, was all founded by our founding fathers, and they had one guidebook, and that's called the Holy Bible.
Yeah.
That they kind of went through, and we were just talking about it. Actually, the last couple of days I've heard it, but how somebody 200 years ago could write a paper that still governs so good today.
Yeah.
And you look at it and it's like, well, somebody wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
And it's,
and it's certainly not a problem with creating new laws. It's a matter of using the laws that's already been put in place.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, and I know this is my own beliefs, but I look at the Bible, how the Pharisees and Sadducees, they had made the law that God had gave Israel unbearable.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times our judicial system, not so much locally, but on a federal level, they make life almost unbearable with continuing to make laws that are almost impossible to follow when the foundation of laws was plenty.
Yeah.
We're
not creating, it's life. It ain't like that somebody's not went through the same problems that you've had or you're facing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got a little different face, but the story's still the same.
Yeah.
There's really been an uptick of crime over the last few years, and I can't say we can blame any one person for that, and I'm certainly not blaming you or the sheriff's department. But as COVID has come on, it changed America, but it also started a process of moving people. A lot of people have moved to here and other places, trying to get away from cities, and there's just a lot of variables in there. But it's caused Washington County to see some things that we really hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
So crime has risen some. What are some things that you all are doing to combat this new onslaught of crime and things that are going on?
That's a big question too. Well, in 2020, I was in office for 12 days and I got my first murder.
Ooh.
Drug related. Since then, we've had a total of 9, and we've solved all of those. But in 2020, we were still operating on some older laws that the House and the Senate had incurred. We could still go and do some basic police work, and then, of course, COVID hit. And we had to basically change everything that we had known and try to change to try to serve our citizens. because they were staying at home. They wasn't getting out. We started manning all of these community centers, to where the deputies would be right there. And we changed a lot of the way that we did law enforcement. Some people wanted just to call in, and we were pushing, hey, we want that face to face, so we can make that connection. But yeah, we ended up, some people just wanted to call in, give her reports and all that. We didn't work from home. We were here 24/7, 365 days a year, and saw a lot of change. Some people, if you stopped them, they wouldn't roll their window down and had face mask and eye protection and everything else on. And it's kind of hard sometimes to communicate with those type people.
And the fear factor really changed a lot of people too.
Yeah, and I think that was blown up. Now we can look back, and of course, there's a lot of people that lost their life to the COVID, and it's very sad. But fortunately enough, we've got over that, got back into pretty much basic law enforcement. We still have the scare tactics that's going on here and there. You still see some people wearing the mask and all that. If that's what they want to do, so be it. We don't discriminate against that. They're still our bosses. One of the things that we've seen that's come out of a lot of the COVID is mental health issues. And we partnered with Highlands Mental Health and ended up doing a Marcus Alert deputy is what they call it. And what that is, I've got 2 deputies, and they're teamed up with mental health clinicians. And they go out and respond to somebody in a mental health crisis.
Right.
If they're wanting to, commit suicide, or if they're just acting out and, what have you. But we can bring that medical treatment and security right to that person, right immediately, instead of having to go out and grab them and then bring them, into a local hospital and all that. We can, they can evaluate them and treat them and start right there and go on with it. That's been one of our biggest things that we really have exceeded in it. We also teamed up with Highlands Mental Health on a crisis intervention team assessment center. And that's a 12-bed facility where we can take these people that's in a mental health crisis, and we can transport them to this crisis center. And they're not tying up the local hospital bed that, if you cut your arm off or have something real bad going on, you don't have this mental health patient tying up where you need some medical treatment. We saw that, and it also alleviates like the towns. You get somewhere like Damascus has got 3 or 4 3 or 4 police officers working. If they have to sit at Johnson Memorial Hospital with that person for 3 days, they're wiped out. And those citizens in Damascus is not getting any police services. So we've got deputies to do that now. And so they're watching these consumers that is having a crisis and all that, while we're keeping police officers in those communities. So that's a big help.
Well, good. I know another problem that seems, I've heard rumors and I've heard this and that, I won't ask if it's true or not. There's an influx of homeless for whatever reason that's came in to our local area. I mean, I get stuff from Scanner Food. I don't have Scanner Food. People send me stuff from Scanner Food. And it seems to be every day, if not multiple times a day, you hear something about the homeless problem. How much is that affecting? I mean, is it true that it is growing in Washington County? Why? And is it a real problem for the local citizens?
There is we do have some homeless that are in the county. We've tried to combat that somewhat. We went and cleaned up their camps, as you call them. Lots of like stolen property that we've recovered from those camps. We've got with the landowners, cleaned those places up. We've got some community people that's came out and helped us, and I mean it's just been a great thing. You get the different people coming in, but they've actually went, they're close by Washington County. They may be in the city limits, but as of right now, if we see them, we go up and check them, and explain to them, that most of them are locals that you see with the signs. You won't get usually you don't get a true homeless, begging for money. The ones that we've encountered live locally. They would bring a pet maybe with them and have that pet saying that they was a veteran and needed money and everything. And then once we end up checking them, and offer them services through the veterans, they're already receiving services through the veterans, and they're using that money. Matter of fact, I had one, I told him, I said, listen, we just dealt with you down at Walmart in Bristol. I said, here you are in Avenue. He said, well, as long as I can make $300 or $400 a day, he said, I can make it. And I thought, well, wow, I guess so. And he was getting a quite large check anyway, so these people that you see, matter of fact, I was in my personal car Sunday or yesterday and had one to cuss me out. He said he needed money for dope. And I thought, well,
there's actually been a guy at our exit 24, and I haven't seen him in the last day or two, but I haven't been by there about that same time, but because of these interviews. But the days that I've come through from work around 4:00, coming by the house, there's been a guy that's standing there with a sign that's just got a big hot leaf on it. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. But anyways, it's sad. Brother Denny Mitchell, I don't know if you know Brother Denny. He's got a place in Bristol. I think it's Haven of Rest, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They deal with a lot of homeless, and he's preached at our church several times. And he said, don't ever give them money.
No.
Don't ever give them money.
They've got money. Whenever we check them, usually they got 2 pocketfuls of money. And if sometimes you'll see them whenever they're near an interstate or a culvert, if they're begging for food, somebody comes up with a Chick-fil-A. If they're thirsty, they may take a drink out of the soft drink or whatever, and then they'll do a head check and they toss that right down into that culvert. They're not looking for the food. They're looking for money for other things. I actually had one that was out of the city of Bristol, and we asked him what his deal was, and he said, I seen everybody else doing it, and he said, I needed a crate motor for my truck, and I figured I'd try this.
Wow.
And so that's what you're dealing with.
And he probably got it.
Probably.
Okay. I'm going to ask this. I know or I already know the answer to this, but ask about your politics, how they play in your job and stuff. And you've already answered this, but I'm going to ask the question for the video. How much of a constitutionalist do you see yourself?
Well, we're the constitutional officers that wants to protect your rights.
Yeah.
There is some laws, they call it the tyranny of wanting to trample on people's rights, much like the red flag law that came out. That's a law that where somebody can go and say that you don't need firearms and everything. You don't have to have a mental health evaluation. You don't have to have any kind of criminal background. You don't have to be charged with anything. But then they want you to come and us to get your firearms and then take them and keep them in a safe place. That's not constitutional by no means.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of the questions I wanted to ask. We're seeing a lot of, I guess the state police is held to a little different accountability because they're more directly tied to the state governor versus the sheriffs, appointed by the county. But we're seeing more and more laws passed or other means of passing things that makes it hard on people like us who are just law-abiding citizens. Now, Washington County passed the gun sanctuary county, but when it comes to, and I guess this is the real question, is they pass more things that are really unconstitutional. How do you see yourself in defending the citizens of Washington County and their gun rights and First Amendment rights?
We're not coming to get guns by no means. Matter of fact, I think I don't know how many thousands of people that I've did as far as a concealed carry classes.
Yeah.
But we encourage carrying. If you have the concealed carry, we want you to carry and protect yourself. But as far as enforcing something that's unconstitutional, I think we've got some like the Virginia Attorney General right now and stuff, that can help us, and that's what helps as far as being a Republican or whatever. If we see something like a new drug that's not on the books, we can make that phone call to our constituents up there, and they can get new laws, hopefully put on the books and everything to where we can enforce that kind of stuff. But yeah, the unconstitutional stuff right now, I think we're in good shape as far as the Attorney General and it coming down to the sheriffs.
And you feel pretty confident in saying if it's unconstitutional, you or your officers wouldn't be enforcing it?
Not at all.
Gotcha. Good deal. I think that kind of covered the same thing with the First Amendment as well. And that covered constitutional carry, concealed carry. So let's switch gears just a little bit. How do you feel about, well, let me ask it this way. There's a lot of devices that are put on guns, or there's a lot of guns that are like Class 3 licenses. There's a lot of speculation on assault weapons, which is a totally different meaning from what they want to put out there. But most of the time, it's people that have a Class 3 license that owns those types of weapons. Do you see a problem with those as far as county citizens having them?
No.
Or is that one of those things that's like, we'd prefer not to, how do you feel about that?
We call it the doodads. It's little devices you can put on your things to make it better, I guess. We don't have a problem with it. It's an invention by somebody who's wanting to make some money and also sell to legal gun owners.
Yeah,
It's a perfectly fine with us.
I got you. Good deal. All right. So there's four main talking points that I've heard throughout Washington County. Different people have different ideas, and there's never a perfect scenario where everybody in Washington County is tickled. It just ain't gonna happen. It doesn't matter how good of a person you are. Not everybody's gonna agree with you.
No.
Not everybody's gonna think that you've done a good job. But these are four main talking points that I've heard. And again, for those watching the video, the questions that you get are the exact same questions that your constituent would get as well. So these are non-biased. They're not pointed at one person or another. They're talking points. There's been a lot of talk over the last few months about some lawsuits, such as officer-involved shootings and different things that's going on. And some of these I hadn't even heard of until I started looking into these. And I'm not going to name any names. I don't think it's fair to name names. I don't think we should do that. But just in general, how do you deal with these things, and what's your take on them?
Well, it's your sheriff's office, and the jobs that we do is basically the performance that you evaluate us on.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I came in, there was a family that wanted to see a video of a shooting of a loved one, and I think it was like the fifth day, maybe fourth day, could be third day that I was in office, and they came knocking on the door, and so it was played to them. The lawsuit from a previous administration, it was ensued, and based on the release of this video and doing all the examinations on it from what they did, it's been found it was a justifiable shooting. I've had 2 officer-involved shootings since I took office, and we want to be an open government, and we've incorporated body cameras. We've incorporated the cameras in the cars and all that, and we always have a third party that's not involved, such as the state police, to come in and investigate. We have done that, and there is no lawsuits in Washington County regarding a shooting.
Okay. This next one I am going to go ahead and kind of mention by name because it'd just be stupid not to. It's been plastered all over the news and the paper, national news. How did Austin Lee Edwards, how did he get by your review and get hired?
Well,
I mean, I have my thoughts, but
yeah, we do a thorough background, and that background, most of it was released to the media right whenever it happened, and all that went out. It's one of those things, we can do all the backgrounds in the world on somebody, but we don't know what's here.
Yeah.
And what's in your house.
Yeah.
It doesn't give us the right to come in and search your computer, your bedroom drawers and all that. nobody can see the future.
Yeah.
And that's much like Matthew 24:43. You know, if you know somebody's going to break into your house, ain't you going to be there? You know, if we know this is going to go on, don't you think we would have done something?
Yeah, and you can clarify this for me. I had heard that he had already passed a bunch of stuff or state trooper schooling or something.
Yeah.
So they didn't catch it either.
No, he was an actively working Virginia State Trooper when I heard it,
So that says a lot.
and had been working successfully for like a year and a half.
Yeah, that says a lot. All right, so lost my place. Okay, so one of the other talking points that I've heard a lot about is the regional jail. I've been around Abingdon and Washington County pretty much my whole life, except for when I was going away to the Army. And as long as I've known the regional jail to be there, this question has, or what has been going on isn't your administration. This has been going on for as long as that regional jail's been up there. There's a lot of problems, within, that I hear about within dating in the ranks, extramarital affairs. And it seems to be a talking point because there's been several people in Washington County affected by some of the things that goes on there. What are your thoughts, and is there anything that you can do? Because that's kind of the question that I'm getting from the local citizens is, why is it left alone? Why does nobody do anything?
I feel like the citizens. Even one of our murders that took place was a domestic.
Yeah.
She was employed with the regional jail.
Yeah.
And actually took the concerns to the regional board at the jail, and we went into closed session or whatever, and I explained a lot of stuff. But I'm one voice to about 40 people.
So what you're saying is you work with the regional jail, but you're not over
No,
the
we
regional
in no way are over the regional jail.
So can you break down how that process works as far as?
What happens is Washington County, all of Southwest Virginia ended up going into the regional jail authority. And what they do is they operate on Virginia Department of Correction standards.
Okay. So they work kind of on the prison standards.
They work on the DOC standards. We're an authority board, basically, and then we have employees. Say the jail superintendent is hired by the regional board. He is basically over this regional jail authority, him and his command staff. There is also a Virginia Regional Jail Board that is in Richmond that is run through the Department of Correction standards that Governor Youngkin has appointed. And they review like the deaths that occur in the regional jails throughout the whole state. And we've had some of those that, we question.
Mm-hmm.
And I've brought a lot of those concerns to the board here locally, the Southwest Regional Jail Board. And I've caused quite a stir, but it's still.
Well, I think it's important for people to know, because I didn't know the answer to that either.
Yeah.
Most people, I think, assume that because it's in Washington County.
Yeah, I think we got bashed back whenever we had an escape up at the regional jail. And fortunately, Sheriff Schuler out Smith County was available, and he met me up there. We walked through, looked at the the thing, where he had kicked a little piece of aluminum out and escaped. And, yeah, I went back to the board, the regional board and, you know, told them that this was not sufficient for lockup. And, so they ended up, I think, I've not been back into the jail, where the escape happened, but I know that they've got like an 8-foot chain link fence around the regional jail now and the extra barrier, to keep people from, passing drugs through. We've made arrests where, people has come up to the regional jail and passing drugs through. My drug agents have. So,
Good deal. Well, that explains a lot. I mean, for me, it does. This next question, I believe, is already answered, but for the diehards that love guns, and love their Second Amendment rights, I'm going to go ahead and touch on this because it's kind of a local or a new thing that's come out. There was a governor in New Mexico that decided she was going to suspend people's rights to carry or bear arms. I think anybody with any common sense would say, well, that's unconstitutional. And even though she tried that, even some of her sheriffs said, no, that ain't happening. We're not going to enforce that. But do you agree with those sheriffs saying no?
no, there is no way that I would take somebody's gun or enforce something like that, especially in New Mexico, where, you have thousands and thousands of illegal, immigrants coming across the border. And you never know, I mean, even here, you never know what you're going to face.
Yeah.
And that is your, protection.
Yeah, I agree. And I was glad to hear that I've never got a count, but as far as I know, every or most all of the sheriffs in New Mexico said, no, we're not doing this.
And we've got a tight knit, group in Virginia as far as the sheriffs. And, that's one of the things that, you know, as far as having an association and things, we can, come up with things like that. You know, if you have a tyrant that actually comes up with some kind of
A bonehead idea like this.
yeah, against your constitution, we are a union sort of, and we come together and say we're not enforcing this, much like the gun sanctuary.
Yeah. All right. Last real question on this topic, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to just touch on anything you want to touch on. Some have said within the county that you're not transparent or accessible enough. How do you feel you rate yourself, and do you think you could do a better job as being a little bit more accessible or transparent?
I've got, a dispatch center that can get a hold of me any time of the day. Most people has got my cell phone number and they call me directly. I've even got this messenger thing on Facebook that people will reach out and hit me up on it. I'm not one to sit in the office. I get out and I help the guys with, you know, drug search warrants, things like that. If it's a murder, yeah, I'm knee deep in it. I'm not just one to sit here and do emails or whatever. I'll do them on my phone, you know, when I get a chance. Try to return all my phone calls. Got voicemail, comes across emails, and I can get them anywhere. So I think I'm pretty accessible.
Okay.
Most of any of the deputies, all of the deputies has got my cell phone numbers. If you see one of them, you know, you can tell them to holler at me, and I usually can call them right back. But yeah.
All right. So as we finish this up, here's your free reign. Is there any things you'd kind of like to touch on?
Well, it's been a interesting and trying 3 years and 9 months. I think we've done an excellent job. We've implemented a lot of programs like the Marcus Alert, the CTAC. I've increased patrol deputies. I took positions that were, I don't want to say not needed, but not as important. And so I eliminated those positions, and I put those positions out on patrol to where I could get a 25% increase of deputies out on patrol on every shift. We incorporated some things like the active shooter. We did a single officer response to an active shooter. A lot of the ones you see on that has happened, you always have an officer waiting for a backup to show up. Not my deputies. If we go into an active shooter, they're going in by themselves and they're going to eliminate that threat, and they've been trained to do so. We've set that program up, and it's being used throughout the state now as far as some of the trainings and things. It's just getting a different mindset. And we went into a lot of proactive law enforcement, trying to prevent crime rather than just being a reactive, going from call to call. We try to do a lot of proactive stuff. We've increased the school resource officers. I've got grant funding, and we put 2 officers in every high school and 2 officers in the NEF center, and got an officer in every county school in Washington County. We've also, like I said, implemented the body cameras, the in-car cameras want to be open and as public as we can. Sometimes the investigations that we get into, we have the news media and things wanting our investigations, but we can't release that as of yet because of the victims, or it may be detrimental to the case.
Yeah.
We've took back over dispatch. It's working real well. We dispatch all the calls for the fire, EMS, and all the police calls here in the county. We've utilized, I know there's been a lot of talk about a military program that we've participated in. But what that is, it's a military program that came about in 1990. And every sheriff that I've worked for in 35 years has participated in this program. And what it is basically is the military has equipment that it might not use. It might be a pickup truck that's 10 years old with 5,000 miles on it. It's a new truck.
Yeah.
And they're getting rid of it. Yeah, I'm going to take it. And we invested probably $12,000 to $15,000 in going and getting some of these items, but I'm saving taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. These school resource officers that I'm hiring, they're driving some of these military trucks that is white in color already, and all we do is stripe them. There may be gray in color, and all I do is stripe them. Some of my drug people are driving some of these undercover trucks that look like a truck me or you may own. We've got vans that we've obtained, to semi trucks that we've obtained. Yeah, I've got some equipment out here, but if you've never been through a tornado or a mass disaster, I have. I worked through the tornado and blade and all that, we didn't have anything.
Yeah.
I've got emergency lighting out here. I can load those lights up. I've got front end loaders. I can load those things with, transport all that right to the scene and start setting out lighting.
Yeah.
That I think that's the good thing as far as being in this job and having the experience on what to do and when to do and how to cut corners to save dollars. I treat this citizen dollars more than mine. I mean, it's like gold that you never touch. We try to get all the grants that we can get, especially the ARPAs and all that. But some of the grants right now, where they've ended up going through the state, some places have got higher crime than what we have. And the Department of Justice and them is trying to see, if they can make a difference in like Richmond, Virginia Beach, Roanoke, and they're punching a lot of money into those places. And some of us rural counties are suffering for that.
Yeah.
But, there's more people dying up there than there is here.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. But I've got a great young department. They're willing to learn. We've sent them to classes. It's phenomenal. Some of the individuals that I've got, and a lot of the ones that I do have, they're homegrown. They live here, they work here, they raise a family here, they go to church here, and they're bought in.
Yeah.
And that's the ones I want. And it has set a precedence for other departments. I'm not one to hire from another department, because usually there's a little something going on, or, I have because they're wanting to move back home. But yeah, that's the ones we want, the ones that's got some ties here.
Yeah.
That wants to protect their loved ones.
It's understandable.
And I like 4 more years. I love it. I've still got the desire to do the job and want to continue.
I understand that. Well, regardless of the outcome of the election, I really appreciate what you and your officers have and continue to do.
I appreciate
So
it.
I really want you to know that regardless, I think we all love our county, we love our country, we love our people, and we pray for them. And regardless of the outcome, I want to be able to support you,
Yeah.
or if Mr. Carter is the winner. But regardless, you guys have a very tough job. I'm very appreciative
Yeah.
of what you guys do. All right, guys. So as we finish this interview up, voting early has already started. So it's not like there's not time. Don't feel like you've got to go on election day and vote. But if you can't get out and vote early, please get out on election day and vote. Your vote matters, and it matters very, very much to everybody in Washington County. And I've in these interviews I've said several times I would love to see Washington County set the precedence and the tone for what Washington County means here in Southwest Virginia. I'd like to see it be that for all of Virginia and the United States. I think we've got a wonderful county and great people. And our people seem to come together. We don't always agree, but we come together. We make it right. We find a way to succeed together. And that's what the nation really needs. So I really appreciate you guys taking time to visit with me on this channel. Please share these videos. From time to time, I will be putting some other interviews even after these elections are over. I think this is a great platform for us to talk to local pastors, preachers, people who have gone through the fires of life and can share their testimony and share insight to younger generations how we can make it together. So I do hope and pray that this channel does continue. But in the meantime, be strong, get out and vote, okay? Thanks, guys. Have a blessed day.